Saturday, and glad to have you here. Saturday's game, 3:30, televised on ABC against Ole Miss.
Okay, going back and reviewing Saturday, again, very grateful to get the victory. It's good to be sitting there at 1-0. With that being said, we know there's a lot of work to be done. I feel like there's a lot of elements of that game that I was very pleased with, things that we worked very hard in the offseason. We talked about toughness and improving the lines of scrimmage. Definitely felt that Saturday and watched the film, felt the same way. We definitely improved, ran the ball for 225 yards and limited them to 60, so that was important. The discipline aspect, penalties, really improved there. Didn't get off to a good start. The one and only offensive penalty we had was the first play of the game, but reined it in after that. Did not have another offensive penalty the rest of the game. I thought our operation was very smooth. We worked very hard throughout the summer just with the operation, just the signals, the cadence. We went on two several times. We got a big jump late in the game by them. So our cadence was very good and the discipline was good. We were very effective on short yardage. Again, point of emphasis that we fell short a year ago. So it was good to get those things improved. We know ball security is an issue. Things we got to improve on is the ball security. I felt like explosive plays. We tried to push the ball down the field. I think we, took 5 shots and didn't convert on any of those. That's something we have to improve on. We know we need to create some explosive plays. So if we did get 2 penalties on those, but again, I feel like we still had opportunities to go up and catch the ball and need to do that. So defensively, again, I think we played very well for the majority of the game. I would like to finish a little better, in particular the last drive, the last touchdown score they had. But I thought the 4th down stops were critical. Getting the game started with an interception was very important to us. And they played really hard. That was the great thing on both sides. They played very tough, very physical, played very hard. There's many things to improve on, and we know that, and we'll get back to work right now. Obviously another great opportunity here this week to play a very challenging Ole Miss team. Lane Kiffin and Ole Miss and their staff do a great job each and every year. They're electric on both sides of the ball, and we'll have our hands full. And it'll be a great challenge. It should be a great environment on a beautiful day here this Saturday, and we're looking forward to that challenge.
Mark, when you evaluated Zach's play from the first game on film, what did you see?
It felt, very, I think Saturday felt frustrating to a lot of people. I think if you just look at it offensively and, we get started with a decent drive, stalls out, the big catch gets called back, we get a touchdown drive. The next 3 possessions really got us off track. I mean, it just was frustrating, I'm sure, to Zach, to our team, and certainly to us and the fans. I mean, we go, whatever the order is, it's, interception, safety, fumble, and that sequence just took us completely out of rhythm, and that'll do that. That's 3 wasted possessions right there. And then I think Zach was really pressing. I think, it didn't, you watch the film and he did some good things. He put the ball in some places that we need to convert. And then there were some that he missed, and some decisions that I'm sure he's going to look at this tape and want over. So there's a lot that he can improve on, but a lot around him as well, and we'll get it fixed.
Are there more layups?
Go ahead, let him.
You all talked so much about how Cutter played so well in that second scrimmage and was coming along in camp.
Mm-hmm.
How do you balance giving Zach time to prove himself, and if you have another quarterback who you think is capable of winning games?
I think that's fair, and it's something we evaluate all the time. We still have a lot of confidence in Zach, and we have confidence in Cutter. In there, it would have been premature to pull the plug right there. I mean, I really believe Zach's going to do very well. And we strongly believe in Cutter. You know, you look at, you know, the progression of Austin Simmons and the, you know, what he's going into his third year, and man, he looks good, you know, and you sit there and say, in one aspect, you know, he's inexperienced, but he's really not. This is his third year in the system. He stepped in last year, played extremely well against Georgia. They didn't miss a beat. You know, I had to go back and look, you know what I mean? Like, wait a minute here. And so, you know, we'll evaluate those things. Both guys are going to get better. And, you know, I will say after watching the tape several times, you know, I felt better about it because there are things that we know we can get fixed, and he'll play well. Sorry.
Well, you mentioned too taking the deep shots. Are there more layups you can create for Zach to help get into a rhythm?
Yeah, definitely. And I think that rhythm got completely, you know, out of whack there because we had a terrible third down. You know, get the ball tipped, get the interception, and then again we're not on the field for a while there. We get a one-play safety, then you get the two-play. You feel like you're creating that layup, that explosive. You know what I mean? Just get the ball moving. Whatever the game was, a 20-yard gain or whatever, and then we get the fumble. I mean, those are things that are very frustrating because it's already tough. It's already frustrating. We're trying to, okay, we're getting it moving. We have good field position, create a good explosive on second down, and you know, kind of the play that you're talking about right there, and then we get out of rhythm there. But yes, there are things we definitely need to control and help them with.
Hardly had 6 targets. I think the rest of the receivers had 3. Is this something that he earned during camp, or was it just kind of byproduct of the players?
Yeah, byproduct of the place and where the quarterback goes with the ball at that moment and everything. It wasn't, you know, designed to be doubled or anything like that.
I think back in the kickoff luncheon right at the beginning of camp, Bush said we're going to run a lot through Kendrick Law. How much did his injury early in camp set back what you want to do with him, or is his role kind of still evolving?
I think the injury didn't help. I mean, it set him back a bit, but I think plays and momentum and just, you know, again, you've heard me talk about that a lot, and it is frustrating. I'd like to run more plays. I'd like to move the ball more and get touches for many more people, but he certainly won't.
You said you'd have an update for us on Jermaine Wilcox. Do you have anything more to say?
Yeah, I don't have anything. The status has not changed, so I really cannot comment on that anymore.
Mark, how did you feel about the Jagger and the snaps, which, as best I could tell, were good?
I felt like Jagger in general, not just the snaps. Jagger played very good, and he makes us a better team, you know, inside. And I think you felt the presence of, in particular, the 3 inside guys.
And what did you think of the offensive tackles?
They did some good things. We didn't give up a sack, you know, probably give up a few pressures. Can be stronger in the run game, but in general, our line played good.
Did you get through this injury free?
And we're in decent shape, yes. We're in pretty good shape.
Mark, what is it about a Lane Kiffin coach team that makes preparation so challenging?
The tempo is the first thing. You know, obviously they go extremely fast and they dress things up very well. They do what they do, but they present it differently and they present it very fast, and they have very good players out there doing it. Typical, you know, team. You know, for them, they're good in all areas. You know, again, I'm very impressed with Austin Simmons. They have 4, you know, transfer wide receivers that are playmakers that can run. Very impressed with their tight ends. You know, very, very good players. Defensively, Pete Golding does a great job. Put a lot of pressure on you, make everything challenging and tough. And so, you know, we'll have our hands full.
You talked about Simmons there a couple times. Saturday, you talked a lot about the pressure that the defensive line caused, the ends caused. How important is that Saturday with the way that he plays?
It's always important. You know, I think, you know, trying to get the quarterback uncomfortable is always important. I think what they do with their tempo and with their play action and keeping you off balance, they do a nice job of making it comfortable for their quarterback. And so, you know, we got to try to mix it up many different ways. You know, we had some success in the past, you know, with it, but it's always a challenge. You know, it is each and every year. So, you know, we got to continue to try to mix it up on them.
When you watch,
Mark.
you all got,
Go ahead, sorry.
you all got the huge run from Dante, obviously,
Mhm.
but before then, it just felt like you could never get, pop one, I guess. And McGowan's longest run, I think, was 7 yards. When you went back and watched the tape, did you feel like it was there and you just didn't hit it, or?
Yeah, I felt like both guys hit it very good. Seth had an opportunity to make the last man miss, and the player made a nice tackle, a shoestring tackle on him. But I felt like Seth was really close to ripping that one off as well. And I felt like we leaned on him all day. Very effective runs. I don't have that stat in front of me, but I don't think we had any negative yardage runs. And we were pushing it for 4 or 5 yards a crack, and that, hopefully, we'll continue that, because we'd like to, try to keep people off balance that way. But I thought both backs ran very well.
We saw,
Alex Safari had a great game. Was it even better and more impressive when you watched the video?
Yeah,
compared to what happened?
it was quite impressive. I thought he played extremely well, and you've heard me talk about it through the preseason. He's been very consistent, and the guy that makes plays and is in the right spot. And I think he had 9 solos and however many assists, and the critical 4th down stop early in the game. So he played very well.
Mixed in a lot of guys on the defensive side of the ball early in the game and throughout.
Mhm.
Were you pleased with kind of what you got from the depth there?
I was, and you heard me say it going into the game. Yes, we talked about the duration of this season and how long it is, and the physical nature of our schedule, that we have to continue to play a lot of guys and bring them along and develop them. And we kind of took there's some plays in there that we'd like to have over as well. In particular at linebacker, and some plays that experience matters. And one of the late drives, we kind of gave up an explosive with some inexperience, and things that we had coached and went over and emphasized throughout camp, and gave up a big play that kind of got them going off the goal line that hurt us. But those are the things that we knew going into it, that we have to understand and accept that some of these young guys are going to make some mistakes. We have to be good enough to overcome them and win anyway, and continue to develop them, and that's what we're going to continue to do.
Mark, when we were in here for the preseason media day, Bush said that if he could have last season back, he think that Brock ran too much early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
Zach was credited with 10 carries Saturday. What was your comfort level? How many times you'd like to see him running the game?
Yeah, I think some of that is dictated about what the defense is doing and what they're taking away. And with Zach, I think effective runs and then being smart is important. And I think runs are different as well. The design quarterback runs, they're going to get hit and be physical inside the tackle box there, and sometimes on the perimeter on reads, they have no choice but to pull it.
Mark, what is your relationship with Lane? It's interesting, you guys have gone against each other 3 times, and every game has been sort of an epic, gone to the last minute or to overtime.
Yeah, I have a lot of respect for Lane. We communicate, and he's a very likable person, very good coach. Even when I wouldn't say our relationship was close, but we go back many years, back to my days at Arizona, and him at USC in those days. So he's always been a great offensive mind, and I have a lot of respect for him and his family, his father, and brothers, and everybody. And so great family, very good coach, and he's done a great job.
When you guys were in Destin, did he say, I still can't believe you went for that 4th down?
Maybe.
Well, to that point, I know you're not one to look back, right? Each year's a new team, but that was the sort of tentpole win of last year. Do you
That was what?
last year's win at Ole Miss?
Yeah.
Do you try to use that at all going into this week's game?
You've heard me for 13 years say, last year was last year, this year's this year, and that's always the answer, because it's true. I've been on both sides of it, right? I go back to the 1,000 questions I get for losing to Florida for 31 years or whatever it was, you know what I mean? And so that one was a little bit obnoxious, but outside of that, this like that one was hard to get around, I said it, because the buildup was real at that point. But with year to year, no, it's not easy to put last year in the rearview mirror. I mean, that's what we all do, and it is what it is. I mean, you always learn, you know, from past games, good or bad. And but you know, as coaches, for the most part, we always look at, you know, last year's game and previous games to see the mistakes we made and how do we improve on those.
Mark, you guys are playing the only inter-SEC game this week, and it's early in the season. How important is the environment that's going to be out there Saturday with the fans and what they bring for you guys Saturday?
Yeah, I definitely think it's going to be important. You know, again, I don't, you know, even though we've moved on, I understand what happened last year, and I want the excitement to be there. And I meant to mention that Saturday, how much, you know, I felt like it was a great environment Saturday, especially early. I wish we'd have done a better job to keep that excitement up there. Even on our sidelines, I'll be honest with you, like it was deflating, those possessions. And we can't afford to do that. And that kind of took some of the air out of the stadium. So we apologize to the fans for that, because we felt like they were there and teed up and ready to go and supporting us. And, you know, we could have done a better job there. And I'm sure it's going to be a great environment Saturday.
Mark, I don't want to keep focusing on Coach Kiffin, but word has it that he's still pretty upset that you knocked him out of the college football playoffs last year. Any fear that he's going to come in here and run up the score on you?
Ole Miss tries to score every time they touch the ball, no matter who they're playing. That's not going to change with Lane. You know what I mean? So it's your job to stop him.
Mark, what was the final decision to move Alex inside? What was the final factor that you said, like, this is his home, and it seems to have paid off as well as it did?
I think, you know, we just looked at it, and, you know, as I mentioned, I think it's a unique story that, first of all, going back to his high school days, that he thought he was going to go play soccer, and then he transitioned to American football there, and we recruited him. I remember recruiting him, and I'm like, no, I'm not going to rule out corner. You know what I mean? We felt safety, but I said I'm not going to rule out corners. I like big corners, and you know, then right away we felt like he was a safety, and then he moved to the outside backer or the hybrid position there for a while, and then inside. And I was really pleased. As I said, I felt like he made that transition very well last year. I don't think that was really talked about enough, how he moved inside and played so well a year ago. And this is one game, but he certainly took another step.
Humphrey Grace had to come out of that game.
Mm-hmm. We'll see. He's day to day. He got a little lower body, little ankle, but we'll see where's that.
Mark, it seemed like Teron Nichols got in there a lot there.
Mhm.
Like 3 or 4 possessions in a
Yeah.
row. He was just him out there at one of the corner spot. What did you expect from him? Is that going to be a thing maybe with him and DJ, maybe JQ's going to?
Teron's you know, we look at him as a starter. He's, you know, we rotate those 3 corners, and we do in practice. We do all the time. I mean, he's, you know, we're going to need, you know, 3+, and so he's a guy we have a lot of confidence in.
I think it was 2016 when you had Benny and Boom in the backfield. Most years you've been one guy, but what are the benefits when you have kind of 2 co-starters?
Yeah, I think it's important throughout the game. You know, I think we all have seen where a running back can get in a groove, and you want to let him, you know, let him play. But I think it's just important for the duration of the season. You know, it's very rare that a running back in this league can take that kind of punishment with getting every rep for an entire season. I think if you ask every coach in our every coach in general, they're going to want multiple guys, certainly at that position. And so I think it's important. It's good. We really believe in those 2 guys, and they both. You know, I think a lot of people just think that Dante's a big guy and run inside, and you saw that his speed, you know, Saturday. And conversely, Seth is a guy that ran very good between the tackles, got some tough yards, and you know, he's also special out of the backfield and can make some people miss. So we'll continue to work those 2 guys.
Mark, I know it's early, but there's been so much talk even in the offseason when you about making sure that offensive line's improved. In your opening statement, you talked about how much better they did. When you watched the film, what were some of the things that you were like, okay, that has improved, we can build on that?
Well, I think, you know, the obvious is the short yardage. You know, we understand the challenge is going to improve as well. You know, we place play a front this week and a team this week that is very disruptive, very big and strong, both in the run and in our protections. We're going to be challenged, much more this week. And so, with what Pete does defensively, he's going to create problems with pressure. He's going to, and also just challenge it with the 4 down. So we'll have our hands full, and we just have to improve ourselves. We were better at running the ball. You have seen us play the MAC teams in the past and struggle run the ball, and that was an improvement this week. And I thought the short yardage was an improvement as well.
Mark, how discussable season is just so important to be able to defend home turf, and the fact that y'all lost 7 straight SEC games here at Kroger Field. Just in that sense, how important is Saturday's game?
In that sense, again, not to diminish any of that, but I don't even think about that. It's what do we have to do this week? I think we all understand that. The focus is on this week, this game.
Mark, what did you see on tape from David Gusta?
Played very hard, very, very good football player, and will continue to help us out. I like the way he plays. He's a physical guy, plays hard, great energy.
It looked like you were able to get penetration, not blitzing, with just
Yeah.
the...
We were more disruptive with the D linemen. It was good, and we rotated. We played 6 defensive linemen, so that was good.
Got to ask you about special teams. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, felt like, again, an area that played very well. I think, we all want to start really fast and play really well in all phases. We've been waiting and talking for a long time, and, we had some possessions that I wish we'd had over and all that. But you look at, 2 phases of it defensively, I felt like we played a very good game against a very talented offense. You're going to see that offense make some hay throughout this year. We talked about the quarterback going into the game and have a ton of respect for him. And then, in special teams, we played extremely well again. Felt like we kicked the ball very, very good. The guys covered well. We had an opportunity to create some explosives there that we'll continue to work at, but very solid and very good. And that's a good thing.
You mentioned it after the game, and so did Bush, but the whole biggest improvements are week 1 to week 2.
Mm-hmm.
Why do you think that's become the same? Why do you think that can be the case?
Well, number one, I think just in general, the build up and the lead up to week 1, some people handle it different than others. I think, players, as much as I constantly try to preach it and talk about it and everything, I think that's very real. You have a lot of new players, coming here playing for the first time wearing the blue and white. They want to play well, including the quarterback. I felt like he was very amped up and, and anxious, like all of us probably were. We've admitted that, and you try to handle it the same way. And you really, I felt like in this aspect, the team handled it very well. Kind of primary responsibility, secondary. In particular on the defensive side, sometimes guys try to do too much. There's new plays, there's a new, so you know what I mean? That, like, even when we're practicing scout team or offense is simulating Toledo, it's different. It's different when they present it, the way they play and all that. So, I think there's many different reasons why you could make a big jump. Now, I also believe in this team, the way they take coaching and the way they take criticism and look at, try to get their mistakes corrected. And, I have no reason to believe that our team won't handle it that way. They have to look at the tape here when we get together and take the coaching, take the criticism, look at the good and look at the bad, and look at the, plays that are inexcusable, and we got to try to get them fixed.
A couple more.
Mark, we always enjoy talking to you. What went into the decision to not do the Thursday afternoon?
I simply said, there's not much more to say, and I told him to ask you. And I don't think anybody here wanted to do it either. So, unless you and I want to have a conversation, okay? I mean, I'm available Monday. I'm available Wednesday on the conference call. And Thursday, I think everybody, quite honestly, y'all didn't know what to ask, and I didn't know what to say. It was like, okay, we had a good week, time to go play ball. That's what went into it.
One other thing, Oscar Combs was in the press box for the first time since before COVID. He means so much to the program. Did you get a chance to talk to him? And you feel extra pressure? He's gonna be here, I think, in the Ole Miss game too.
It was good. I didn't know, and I did not know. Of course, I think we're in different places, but I wish him all the best, that's for sure.
All right, folks, thank you very much.
Yeah.